20 kilograms of solid gold hanging from the neck. It is not a jewel, nor an ornament, nor a symbol of wealth. It is a torture designed with mathematical precision to break a woman's vertebrae while she walks. The most powerful queen of the East, the woman who challenged the Caesars and split the Roman Empire into 3 pieces. Now she gasps under the weight of her own crown. But the true terror is not the chains. The true terror is the noise heard in the distance. Hundreds of thousands of Roman throats roaring for blood, demanding to see the warrior queen reduced to a chained pet. Welcome to the Roman triumph. Welcome to hell on earth. To understand how a monarch ends up dragged through the dust, first you have to understand the fatal miscalculation. Zenobia of Palmyra committed the capital sin of antiquity. She believed Rome was dead, and she had reasons to believe it. The empire was crumbling, devoured by plague, barbarian invasions, and a succession of incompetent emperors who lasted less than a season. Zenobia looked at the map and saw an opportunity. She took Egypt, cut off the grain supply, and declared herself Augusta. It was a master move until a career soldier. A man of iron discipline named Aurelian took command of the legions. Aurelian was not a politician. He was an efficient killer with a crown. He crossed the Bosphorus, razed everything in his path, and pushed Palmyra's armies to the gates of their own city. The siege was brutal. Hunger began to tighten the defenders' throats. But Zenobia had one last card: escape. It is night. The desert air is cold, but sweat sticks her tunic to her skin. Zenobia runs toward the Euphrates River. There are no golden carriages here, only fast camels and desperation. The Persian shore safety is a few hundred meters across dark water. If she crosses, she can regroup an army. If she crosses, the war continues. But Roman horses are faster than hope. Aurelian's light cavalry intercepts the group just as they are entering the water. There is no epic final battle, no sword duel, only immediate physical brutality. Soldiers with rough hands, accustomed to digging trenches and killing Germans, grab the most powerful woman in the known world and throw her to the ground. Royal dignity evaporates the instant your face hits the mud. Here begins the true dilemma. Most captured generals commit suicide. They plunge a dagger into their own chest before letting the enemy touch them. It is the honorable way out, the only way to avoid what is coming. But Zenobia does not do it. Why? Is it cowardice or a cold calculation of survival? They drag her before Aurelian. The emperor is dirty with dust and blood, sitting in a campaign chair. He looks at her. His officers demand the queen's head. They demand she be executed right there to send a message to all rebel provinces. A sword to the neck, and it all ends. But Aurelian shakes his head. Killing her would be a waste. A corpse rots and is forgotten. Rome does not need martyrs. Rome needs spectacle. The emperor knows his legitimacy hangs by a thread. He needs to show the plebs, the Senate, and the world that he has restored order, and for that he needs a breathing trophy. He needs Zenobia to walk. The decision is made. Zenobia will live, but the price of her life will be the death of all those around her. The trial begins in the city of Emesa. It is a legal farce, a theater of blood. Roman soldiers bring her advisors, her generals, her philosophers. Among them is Longinus, one of the brightest minds of the time, the man who taught her Greek and philosophy. Aurelian gives the queen an implicit option, her life in exchange for guilt. And Zenobia, the warrior queen, points to her friends. She says she was a deceived woman, badly advised by ambitious men. It is abject betrayal. It is pure, raw survival. The legionaries execute Longinus and the other officers in front of her. The blood splashes the queen's sandals. She does not look away. She cannot afford to show weakness nor compassion. Now she is property of the Roman state. Her legal status has changed. She is no longer a person. She is part of the loot, inventoried along with statues, gold, and cattle. The journey to Rome begins. It is thousands of kilometers. It is not a diplomatic transfer. It is an itinerant exhibition. In every city, in every garrison, they take her out and show her. Look, say the centurions, here is the woman who dared to challenge us. People spit, throw stones. The legend of the great Eastern Queen is dismantled town by town, humiliation after humiliation. But this is only the rehearsal. Aurelian is preparing something not seen in decades. A triumph, not a simple celebration, but the most sacred, violent, and political ritual of the Roman machinery. And at the center of that ritual, he has designed a specific torment for Zenobia. The army blacksmiths receive a strange order. They must not forge iron shackles for the prisoner. They must take the gold captured in Palmyra's treasury and melt it. They must make solid gold chains, gold cuffs, gold collars so thick that a normal human being could barely stand. The irony is cruel and deliberate. The wealth she used to finance her rebellion will now be the physical weight that crushes her. As they approach Italy, the rumor runs through the streets of Rome. The Queen of the East comes in chains. The plebs are frantic. The curiosity is morbid. They want to see if she is as beautiful as they say, and they want to see her broken. For Zenobia, every step toward the capital is a step toward the destruction of her identity. Do you know what happened to Vercingetorix, the Gallic king? They exhibited him, humiliated him, and then strangled him in the Tullianum, a damp hole under the city. Do you know what happened to Jugurtha, the king of Numidia, who died of hunger in that same darkness, naked and mad? The question that keeps her awake in her mobile cell is not whether she will die. It is how. Will they throw her to the beasts in the Colosseum? Hand her over to the soldiers to have fun in the barracks? Or does Aurelian have planned an even more twisted end for the woman who almost destroyed his empire? The gates of Rome open. The noise is deafening. The day of the triumph has arrived. The noise is not human. It is a physical vibration that shakes the cobblestones of the Via Sacra. 1 million people have crowded the streets, hanging from rooftops, squeezed in porticos, climbed on statues. Everyone has come to see one thing: the end of the world as they knew it and the rebirth of Roman power. The air smells of burned incense, rancid crowd sweat, and elephant dung. The procession begins, and it is an assault on the senses designed to overwhelm. First come the beasts: tigers from India, giraffes, northern elk, animals most Romans believed were myths. Aurelian is not just showing he has conquered armies, he is saying Rome has conquered nature itself. Then come the carts loaded with booty, silver, silks, statues of foreign gods, now toys for the Senate. But no one looks at the gold. Everyone is waiting for the woman. When Zenobia appears, a deafening roar hits the marching column, and the sight is grotesque. She does not walk like a queen, she walks like a beast of burden. The solid gold chains Aurelian ordered forged are so heavy that 2 slaves, one on each side, have to hold the links so they do not tear her arms from their sockets or break her neck. But they do not help out of compassion, they help to prolong the spectacle. If she collapses and dies right there, the show ends, and the show cannot end. Her legs tremble under the weight of the jewels. She wears all the gems from Palmyra's crown. It is a shining mountain of wealth that can barely breathe. Sweat runs down her face, washing away the royal makeup, revealing the raw fear beneath the mask. The crowd throws trash, obscene insults, and mockery. Roman matrons point at her with contempt. There goes the woman who dared to play at being a man, the one who thought she could rule. Beside her, walking in Gallic trousers, a garment considered ridiculous and barbaric by the Romans, is Tetricus, the man who usurped control of the western provinces. He too is a fallen emperor. He too is a trophy. 2 rivals who controlled half the world, reduced to exhibition cattle in the same afternoon. What goes through Zenobia's mind as her sandals touch the dust of Rome? She knows every step brings her closer to the Forum, and the Forum is where the road ends. At the end of this route awaits the temple of Jupiter Capitolinus. The tradition is strict, almost liturgical. The victorious general climbs the stairs to sacrifice white bulls to the gods. At that precise moment, as the axe falls on the bull's neck up in the temple, the enemy leaders are strangled below in the Mamertine prison. It is a synchronized blood sacrifice. Vercingetorix died that way. Simon Bar Giora, the Jewish leader, was thrown from the Tarpeian rock or strangled while the crowd cheered. Zenobia counts the steps. 1,000 meters remain. 800, 500 behind her. In a chariot pulled by 4 deer, an eccentricity only a man like Aurelian could afford, goes the emperor. Wearing the purple tunic embroidered in gold, his face painted with red minium to look like Jupiter. He is a living god. A slave holds a laurel crown over his head and whispers in his ear, "Respice posta, hominem te memento," look behind you. Remember you are only a man. But today that phrase seems empty. Today Aurelian has absolute power of life and death. The contrast is brutal. Aurelian at the top, Zenobia in the abyss. He is order. She is the chaos that has been chained. The procession stops. They have reached the foot of the Capitoline Hill. The moment of truth. The crowd's noise drops a decibel. An electric tension runs through the Via Sacra. The legionaries surround the prisoners. Tetricus looks at the ground, resigned. Zenobia raises her gaze, trying to keep her head up despite the kilos of gold pulling her neck to the ground. The guards approach. Grab the lesser prisoners, the lieutenants, the rebel officers, take them to the left, toward the darkness of the Mamertine prison. Screams are heard, pleas in Aramaic and Gallic. They know they will die in the damp darkness, strangled with a garrote rope. A centurion stands in front of Zenobia, places his hand on the hilt of his gladius. She waits for the pull. The push toward the execution cell, closes her eyes, waits for the cold of the underground stone, but the push does not come. Aurelian has made a different political calculation. Killing a barbarian king is routine. Killing a woman, a queen who captured the plebs' imagination with her exoticism and audacity, could be counterproductive, could seem un-Roman, could seem fear. And Aurelian has no fear. He wants to demonstrate such crushing moral superiority that death would seem a gift. He has a much stranger fate reserved for her, a fate that for a warrior queen could be worse than death. The centurion signals her. They are not going to prison. The procession continues, but she is separated from the group of the condemned. The crowd is confused. Where is the blood? Where is the corpse? The emperor ascends the temple. The bulls are sacrificed. The smoke rises to the sky. The victory is total. But while Rome gets drunk on free wine and celebrates the restoration of the world, Zenobia is taken to a villa on the outskirts, in Tibur, near the villa of the former Emperor Hadrian. They remove the gold chains. The physical relief is immediate, but the psychological weight doubles. They give her Roman matron clothes, give her servants, tell her she is free within the limits of the property. Aurelian has not forgiven her out of kindness. He has turned her into a Roman housewife, the great rebel, the new Cleopatra, condemned to spend her days organizing dinners, weaving wool, and aging in the darkness of anonymity. While the empire she tried to destroy keeps turning without her, but the story of Roman cruelty to queens does not end with Zenobia. She was lucky. Decades earlier, another royal family did not receive the mercy of domestic exile. When Rome captures a queen, terror has many faces, and sometimes the humiliation is not confinement, but the most vile imaginable public exposure. To understand the true depths of the abyss, we have to look at what happened to the royalty of the Iceni tribe. We have to look at Britannia, because if she was not exhibited as a trophy, Boudica's daughters were used as mere objects to break the spirit of an entire nation. Here, the Roman machinery did not seek political spectacle. It sought emotional annihilation. Forget the sun of Italy. Forget the marble villas and comfortable retirements in the countryside. Let's go north, to the rain, to the mud, to the very edge of the known world. Here in Britannia, Roman civilization does not wear golden masks. Here the imperial machinery shows its rusted and blood-filled teeth. We are in the year 60 CE. The king of the Iceni, Prasutagus, has just died. He was a prudent man, a collaborator. He believed he could buy his family's safety by playing by Rome's rules. In his will, he left half his kingdom to Emperor Nero and the other half to his 2 teenage daughters. He thought it was life insurance. He thought Rome would respect the law. How naive. For the local Roman administrators, a client kingdom is not an ally. It is a bank account waiting to be liquidated. The king's will is ignored before the ink dries. The Roman procurator Catus Decorianus does not send diplomats to the Iceni royal house. He sends centurions, veterans, and tax collectors with permission to plunder. Boudica, the widow, The queen comes out to receive them. She demands respect, demands that her husband's will be fulfilled. Rome's response is a meticulously designed act of state terrorism. There is no trial, no accusation. The soldiers grab the queen in front of her own tribe. They tie her to a post like a common criminal, like a disobedient slave. The whip falls on the royal back. 1, 2, 10 times. The skin opens. The royal blood stains the muddy ground. The message is clear. Your title means nothing. Your lineage does not protect you. You are flesh, and flesh obeys. But the physical horror of the lashes is only the prelude. What follows is what really turns the stomach, a crime that transcended centuries. The Roman officers look at the king's 2 daughters. They are girls, noble virgins, in Celtic culture. Their purity and status are sacred. For Rome, they are simply surplus assets from a liquidation. They give the order. What happens next is not abuse. It is systematic and public rape. The legionaries drag the princesses. They do not do it in a dark alley, but in plain sight of everyone. Under the helpless gaze of the Iceni nobles and their own bleeding mother, it is strategic rape. By destroying the daughters' purity, Rome is destroying their political future, their ability to marry, their legitimacy to rule. They are erasing them from the dynastic map using their own bodies as erasers. When the soldiers finish, they leave the 3 women lying in the mud, laugh, loot the house, take the silver. For them, it is just another Tuesday in a barbarian province. They believe they have broken the Iceni spirit. They believe that after such humiliation, no one will ever dare raise their eyes again. It is the bloodiest miscalculation in the history of Roman occupation in Britannia. Boudica does not break. While cleaning the blood from her daughters, something inside her dies. The woman who tried to negotiate, the political widow. And something new is born, something cold, dark, and absolutely lethal. The Romans saw no threat in those crying women on the ground. They did not understand that they had just created their own nemesis. Boudica rises. There are no tears, only a silent promise of total annihilation. If Rome wants to be a monster, she will teach them what true fear is. Rome lit a fuse in the hearts of those 3 women, and the explosion that follows will not leave one stone upon another in Londinium. The revenge will not be political. It will be personal, and it will be a slaughter of such magnitude that centuries later, archaeologists will find a layer of red and black ash beneath the modern city, the geological scar of a mother's rage. But before seeing Londinium burn, we must understand that this treatment was not exclusive to barbarians. Rome could be just as cruel to the oldest and most sophisticated royalty in the world, because even pharaohs, gods on earth, can be reduced to chained pets if the right general decides suffering is necessary. 46 BCE. Rome does not celebrate one victory, it celebrates 4. Julius Caesar. The man who turned the Republic into his personal chessboard, organizes the most extravagant spectacle the city has ever seen. 4 days of parades, 4 days of blood gore, Pontus, Africa, Egypt. But on the day dedicated to Egypt, something goes wrong. The script is the same as always. Display the prisoners, dazzle the plebs, and remind them that Caesar is untouchable. In the procession marches Princess Arsinoe IV, Cleopatra's younger sister. She is a little over 20 years old, perhaps less. She is a girl woman who had the audacity to lead an army against the Roman legions in Alexandria, who forced Caesar himself to swim for his life in the harbor to escape her soldiers. For that humiliation, Caesar wants to see her broken. Arsinoe walks loaded with chains. But unlike the bearded and fierce barbarian kings, the crowd loves to hate. Arsinoe looks fragile. She is a tragic figure, a Hellenistic princess educated in marble palaces, now dragged like a common slave. And then the unthinkable happens. The roar of the crowd, that bestial noise demanding death, dies down. The Romans look at the chained girl and feel no pride. They feel pity. They see in her the fall of ancient nobility. Murmurs are heard. Is this necessary? They ask themselves, does Caesar need to crush a girl to prove he is great? Pity is dangerous. Pity quickly turns to anger against the conqueror. Caesar, the shrewdest politician in history, reads the temperature of the room instantly. He realizes he has crossed an invisible line. If he executes her at the end of the parade, as tradition demands, the crowd might turn against him. The triumph could turn into a riot. So in an act of calculated mercy, Caesar spares her life. They do not strangle her in the Tullianum. They exile her. They send her to the temple of Artemis in Ephesus, in present-day Turkey, a sacred sanctuary where theoretically no one can touch her. Arsinoe breathes, thinks she has survived the Roman machinery, thinks religious asylum will protect her. But Rome has a long and vengeful memory, and her sister Cleopatra has an even better one. Years pass. Caesar dies under 23 stab wounds. The world turns. Mark Antony takes control of the East and falls under Cleopatra's political and personal spell. And one night, amid pillow whispers and war strategies, Cleopatra makes a simple request. She wants her sister's head. Arsinoe is a threat. As long as she breathes, she is a rival to Egypt's throne. What happens next is a violation of all divine and human laws of antiquity. Roman assassins sent by Mark Antony arrive in Ephesus. They enter the sacred sanctuary. Arsinoe clings to the goddess's statue, screaming for asylum, invoking the divine protection respected for centuries. The Roman soldiers do not care. They tear her from the altar, slit her throat right there on the temple steps. Her blood stains the sacred ground. It is an atrocious sacrilege that horrifies the Greek world, but sends a brutally clear message. There is no refuge. There are no gods to protect you from Rome. If the state wants your death, it will find you at the end of the world or on the altar of your gods and kill you like a dog. This story, the image of her sister dragged and then executed like a cornered animal, is seared into Cleopatra's mind. She watches from afar, takes notes, learns the most important lesson of her life. Never let them capture you alive. Because Cleopatra knows that if she ever loses, Rome will not have the same mercy with her. She is not a nice girl like Arsinoe. She is the whore of the East, the foreign witch who seduced their generals and corrupted their republic. If Rome captures her, the parade will not end in exile. It will end in a storm of violence and public humiliation that will make Zenobia's fate seem like a walk in the garden. And the day comes. Mark Antony's fleet burns at Actium. Octavian's legions, the future Augustus, march toward Alexandria. The siege closes. Cleopatra locks herself in her mausoleum. The air smells of the end of an era. Octavian wants to capture her alive at all costs, not for love, not for justice. He needs her for his triumph. He needs the great Egyptian queen walking in chains through the streets of Rome to legitimize his power. She is the centerpiece of his political coronation. He sends messengers promising safety, promising dignified treatment. He lies. He lies desperately because he knows the true prize is her public humiliation. Cleopatra receives the messages. She looks out the palace window toward the sea, where Roman ships block the horizon. She remembers Arsinoe's chains. She remembers Boudica's lashes, even if only in spirit. She knows Roman cruelty. She knows Octavian wants her in a cage. The final duel is not a battle of swords. It is a race against time. Octavian tries to enter the mausoleum to capture her before she can take the only way out left to her. It is a psychological chess game. Can the most powerful man in the world prevent a woman from committing suicide? The silence inside the mausoleum is heavier than stone. Outside, Alexandria holds its breath. Octavian has won. The war is over, but the battle for this story's final image is being fought right now in a barricaded closed room. Octavian is desperate. He does not want a corpse. He wants a prisoner. He knows a Roman triumph without Cleopatra is like a wedding without a bride. It is a theatrical failure. He sends his trusted man, Proculeius, with a strict order: bring her out alive. Do not use force if not necessary, but do not let her kill herself. The scene that follows is worthy of a spy movie. While an envoy distracts Cleopatra talking to her through the barred door, Proculeius places a ladder against the outer wall. He climbs silently. He slips through a high window, the same one through which they brought the dying Mark Antony days earlier. He runs down the stone stairs. One of Cleopatra's maids shouts, "Queen, they have captured you." Cleopatra turns. she sees the Roman. Her reaction is instinctive, animal. She pulls out a dagger hidden in the folds of her tunic. She does not try to attack the soldier. She aims at her own chest. She wants to end it before Roman hands touch her. But Proculeius is fast. He lunges at her, grabs her wrist in midair, twisting her arm until the metal falls to the ground. "Woman," he says, panting from the effort, "do not harm yourself, nor deprive Caesar of the chance to show his clemency. It is a pious lie, and both know it." Proculeius shakes her tunic, searches for poison, searches for weapons, checks her like a street criminal. The Queen of Egypt, the last pharaoh, has been disarmed. Now she is officially a prisoner. The following days are slow psychological torture. Octavian allows her to bury Mark Antony, but then locks her up again. They remove every sharp object. They watch her day and night. They want her to recover, to eat, to regain her beauty. Octavian needs her to look magnificent for the parade, not haggard and sick. Then the meeting happens. Octavian enters the room. He is young, cold, calculating not the passionate Caesar, nor the exuberant Mark Antony. He is a bureaucrat of death. Cleopatra tries to seduce him, not with sex, but with intellect and pity. She throws herself at his feet, offers lists of treasures, tries to negotiate her children's future. Octavian looks at her with an empty smile. "Fear not, woman. I will treat you well." He speaks to her as if she were a hysterical girl, but his eyes say something else. His eyes are measuring the diameter of her wrists for the chains. Cleopatra knows he is lying, but she needs confirmation, and she gets it from the most unlikely source. A young Roman officer, Cornelius Dolabella, fascinated by the queen's legend, breaks protocol, approaches her, and whispers the truth Octavian hides. "In 3 days we sail for Syria. You and your children will go to Rome. You are going to walk in the triumph." That is the sentence. There will be no comfortable exile. There will be chains, mockery, spitting, and probably a sordid execution at the end. Cleopatra makes her decision. It is not an act of desperation. It is her last military maneuver. She will outflank Octavian. She will steal his victory. She asks for a bath, dresses in her best royal finery. The tunics of the goddess Isis asks for a sumptuous dinner and writes a letter. A single letter addressed to Octavian. She hands it to a guard to take to the Roman camp. As soon as the guard leaves, the trap closes. Octavian receives the letter in his tent, opens it, reads the first line. "I beg you to bury me beside Mark Antony." The color drains from the future emperor's face. He understands instantly. It is not a request. It is a suicide note. It is a declaration of victory. "Run!" He shouts to his guards. "Stop her!" He himself runs toward the mausoleum, hoping the doctors can save her, that they can pump the poison out of her body. But Rome arrives too late. The soldiers knock down the doors, burst into the royal chamber, and the image they find stops them cold. There is no blood, no visible violence. Cleopatra lies on a golden bed. Her 2 maids, Iris and Charmian, are dying at her feet. Adjusting the diadem on their lady's head with their last breaths, the queen is dead. The poison of the asp, or perhaps a toxic mixture hidden in a hollow of her hairpin. The story varies, but the result is the same. She has done her job. It was quick and clean. A Roman soldier, furious at losing his victory bonus, shakes one of the dying maids. "Does this seem well done to you?" he shouts. The maid opens her eyes for the last time. She looks at her perfect, untouchable queen and answers with antiquity's most defiant phrase, "Yes, soldier, it is extremely well done. It is worthy of a descendant of so many kings." And she dies. Octavian enters, sees the body, knows he has lost. He has conquered Egypt, won the gold, eliminated his rivals. But this woman has won the final game. She has chosen her own end. She will not be a toy in his parade. She has become an untouchable myth. Octavian's fury is so great he considers desecrating the corpse. But he is a politician. He knows that would make him look like a monster. So he grants the burial. However, the triumph in Rome must continue. The people expect a queen. Octavian cannot disappoint them. And what he does next is one of the most pathetic and surreal acts of Roman propaganda. If he cannot have the real queen, he will fabricate one. Months later, in the streets of Rome, the crowd roars, the parade passes, and there in chains goes Cleopatra. But she is not flesh and blood, she is a statue. A wax or gold effigy dragged on a cart with a painted snake biting her arm. It is a farce. The people know it. Octavian knows it. Rome applauds, but the taste of victory is bittersweet. They have seen the statue, but they know the real woman escaped his clutches. This is the fate of those who escape. But Rome's history is full of those who did not have the chance to drink the poison. Those who were dragged into darkness and whose names were erased. Because there is a fate worse than death and worse than public humiliation. A fate reserved for Rome's most hated enemy. A man who was not just a rebel, but an existential nightmare for the Republic. A man who forced Rome to look in the mirror and see its own ugliness. We speak of Jugurtha, and his end in the Tullianum shows us what happens when Rome does not want a spectacle, but simply wants to make you disappear into the coldest and dampest oblivion in the world. Rome hates enemies who defeat it on the battlefield, but despises with volcanic fury those who buy it. And Jugurtha, king of Numidia, made the mistake of speaking the truth out loud. He looked at the senators, the generals, the Roman elite, and said, "Rome is a city for sale, and it will perish as soon as it finds a buyer." Jugurtha did not just fight them, he bribed them, corrupted consuls, bought peace treaties, and laughed in the Republic's face. He showed them their honor had a price, and that price was cheap. That is why, when Gaius Marius finally defeats him not by military skill, but by a dirty betrayal from his father-in-law, Jugurtha's fate cannot be a simple execution. Rome needs to wash its own shame, cleansing it with the blood of the man who knew its secrets. We are in the year 104 BCE. Marius's triumphal parade advances. Jugurtha walks in front of the victor's chariot. Unlike Zenobia, there is no dignity here, only madness. He wears his royal tunics, but his eyes move frantically. He has spent months in chains. He knows what is coming. The procession ends at the Capitol. The path forks. Marius ascends the temple to receive glory. Jugurtha is pushed to the left, toward a small, discreet door at the base of the hill, the entrance to the Tullianum. Here Roman civilization completely removes its mask. The lictors, the ceremonial guards, surround the fallen king. They do not wait for him to enter the cell. They pounce on him like hungry dogs. Roman greed, the same greed Jugurtha denounced, explodes in a frenzy of physical violence. One guard grabs his silk tunic and pulls so hard he tears it in half. Another sees the heavy gold rings hanging from his ears. He does not bother to unfasten them. He yanks. The cartilage tears. Blood splashes the stone floor, and the soldier pockets the gold while the king screams. They rip off his clothes, his jewels, his dignity until he is left naked, bleeding, and trembling. But the worst is not the blows. The worst is the hole. The Tullianum is not a prison with bars. It is an ancient cistern, a stone stomach dug 12 feet underground, damp, dark, and stinking. There are no stairs, only a hole in the ceiling through which they throw the condemned. They push Jugurtha into the void. He falls, hits the muddy, icy ground in total darkness. The air smells of rot, ancient excrement, and fear. Above, the stone lid closes, erasing the last ray of light. The silence is absolute, broken only by dripping water and the labored breathing of other condemned waiting to die. And at that moment, in absolute darkness, Jugurtha's mind breaks. It is said he let out a hysterical laugh, a laugh that echoed off the damp walls. He shouted into the darkness, "By Hercules, how cold this Roman bath is." It is the final irony, the desert king, the man who lived under Africa's scorching sun, will die frozen in the bowels of the city he tried to buy. They do not execute him quickly. That would be merciful. They leave him there without food, without water, naked on the cold stone. Days pass. 1, 2, 3. Hunger begins to devour his muscles. Thirst swells his tongue. Madness takes hold as he fights rats in the darkness. It takes 6 days to die, 6 days of slow agony, screaming curses against a city that cannot hear him. While above, on the surface, Rome continues its business, indifferent. When he finally stops moving, an executioner descends with a hook, hooks the corpse, and drags it to throw it into the Tiber River or the Gemonian stairs, where stray dogs will do the rest. The Tullianum is the great devourer, but there is a man who knew this hell better than anyone. A man who was not there 6 days, but 6 years, waiting for his end. His name is Vercingetorix. If Jugurtha was Rome's shame, Vercingetorix was its great fear, the Gaul who united the tribes. The man who almost defeated Julius Caesar at Alesia. When he surrendered, he did so with supreme honor. He rode out, threw his weapons at Caesar's feet, and sat in silence, offering his life in exchange for his men's. Caesar accepted the surrender, but Caesar does not forgive. Vercingetorix is not executed on the battlefield. He is chained and sent to Rome. But Caesar has a problem. The civil war against Pompey. The triumph is delayed. The parade does not come. And Vercingetorix waits. Imagine spending 6 years in a Roman cell, 6 years watching your warrior body atrophy. 6 years knowing the only reason they keep you alive, the only reason they feed you, is because they need you as decoration for a party that has not yet been held. You are fattened cattle for sacrifice. Vercingetorix ages in the darkness, learns outside news from guards' whispers. He knows Caesar has crossed the Rubicon. He knows Rome is at war with itself. Perhaps he has an absurd hope that chaos will free him. But Caesar wins. He always wins. And in the year 46 BCE, 6 years after his surrender, the cell door opens. Get up, King of the Gauls, they say. It is time. They take him out into sunlight. His eyes, accustomed to gloom, burn. They put gala chains on him, make him walk through a city that hates him. He sees Caesar, the man he surrendered to man, now turned into an untouchable demigod atop his chariot. Vercingetorix plays his part. He walks with head high, though his body is a ruin. He reaches the end of the Via Sacra, and then routine repeats. The left turn, the Tullianum. But this time there is no wait. The public executioner waits in the darkness. It is not a fight. Vercingetorix is too weak. They pass the noose around his neck, a quick twist of the garrote. The bone cracks. The man who united Gaul ceases to exist, turned into an inert lump on a Roman prison floor. For Rome, it is closing an administrative file. For us, it is the revelation of an uncomfortable truth. The empire's shine, its marble statues and eternal laws, are built on a foundation of broken bones and crushed dignity. But there is one more story, one that breaks the pattern. Once, only once, the nightmare reversed. Once it was a Roman emperor who ended up chained, kneeling in the dust, serving as a human footstool for a foreign king. The fate of Emperor Valerian is the final reminder that the wheel of fortune always turns, and when it crushes Rome, it does so with the same cruelty Rome taught the world. Year 260 C. Desert near Edessa burns under a relentless sun, but the heat is not what makes the legions sweat. It is panic. The Roman army is decimated by plague and surrounded by Sassanid Persian cavalry in the command tent. Emperor Valerian makes a desperate decision. He will not fight. He will negotiate. He believes his title, that Rome's majesty grants him diplomatic immunity. He believes Shapur, the Persian king of kings, will respect the rules of civilized play. Valerian goes out to meet with his personal guard. He walks toward the enemy camp expecting political debate. What he finds is an ambush. There is no negotiation. Shapur does not want to talk. He wants to collect. Persian soldiers pounce on the imperial entourage. They disarm the emperor, throw him to the ground. Chains close on the wrists of the man who rules the Mediterranean. It is absolute conceptual collapse. Rome's god-emperor is now private property of a foreign king. Valerian is not sent to a dark prison. Shapur has a much more theatrical and cruel imagination. He takes the emperor with him, not as a prisoner of war, but as an exotic pet. The humiliation that follows is so specific and degrading that Roman historians can barely write it without trembling with shame. Shapur is a warrior, spends his days on horseback. And every morning when the King of Kings wants to mount his stallion, he does not use a wooden block, he does not use a stone. He shouts a name, Valerian. The Augustus, father of the fatherland, is dragged from his cage. They force him to get on all fours in the dust with hands and knees stuck in the earth. Shapur places his leather boot on the Roman emperor's back. He uses the spine of the most powerful man in the West as a step to propel himself into the saddle every day, in front of the entire Persian army, in front of ambassadors from other nations. Valerian feels the physical weight of the Persian king on his back, but the symbolic weight is infinite. Every time Shapur mounts his horse stepping on Rome's neck, he sends a visual message to the entire known world. Rome is not invincible. Rome is my footstool. The emperor lives like this for months, perhaps, still wearing the dirty rags of his purple tunic. Turned into a living piece of furniture? Ransom pleas are ignored? Shapur does not want gold. He already has all the gold he wants. He wants to enjoy the slow destruction of Roman pride. And when Valerian finally has the decency to die, probably from shame and exhaustion. Though some say they made him drink molten gold in a final mockery of Roman greed, his torment does not end. Shapur does not give him a burial. He calls his taxidermists, skins the emperor's corpse, tears off the skin in one piece with surgical care, tans it, dyes it intense red, the imperial color, then stuffs it with straw and sews the limbs. Valerian's stuffed body is hung in Persia's main temple, a grotesque scarecrow with a Caesar's face, for decades. Every time a Roman ambassador arrives at the Persian court to try to negotiate, the first thing they show him is the skin of their former emperor hanging on the wall, staring at them with empty eyes. It is the brutal reminder that power is a fragile illusion. Rome, the master of chaining queens and strangling kings, has tasted its own medicine. The wheel has turned completely, but in the end, whether in a parade in Rome or a temple in Persia, the lesson is always the same. For empires, human beings are not people. They are symbols. They are currency. And when the Game of Thrones ends, the fate of the losers is always the same: to be reduced to flesh, to dust, and to spectacle. The sun sets over the Palatine Hill. The crowd has dispersed, drunk on cheap wine and patriotic euphoria. Street vendors pack up their stalls. Public slaves come out with buckets of water and hard brushes to scrub the red stains from the steps of the Temple of Jupiter. The machinery of the triumph stops. Zenobia sits in the garden of her villa in Tibur. She is alive. Yes. She has food. She has a roof. But when she closes her eyes, she does not see the cypresses of Italy. She sees the sands of Palmyra she will never step on again. She sees the faces of the friends she pointed out to be killed in exchange for her life. The gold she wore on her neck is gone. But the weight of survival is a chain that cannot be removed. Rome has allowed her to keep her body but has ripped out her soul. In the darkness of the Tullianum, Vercingetorix's body is no longer there. It has been dragged by hooks and thrown into the Tiber. The river carries the king of the Gauls to the sea, anonymous, turned into fish food, while above, on the surface, senators toast to peace. And in Persia, Valerian's skin sways gently with the hot desert breeze, an eternal warning hanging from a beam. This is the true face of Roman power. It is not the laws, nor the aqueducts, nor Stoic philosophy. It is the industrial capacity to turn human beings kings and queens anointed by gods into mere theater accessories. Rome does not just conquer you. Rome digests you, chews you until nothing remains of you except what serves their narrative. We like to think of the Romans as the fathers of civilization. We admire their white statues and elegant speeches. But if you scratch that marble surface, you find dried blood. The Pax Romana was not maintained with diplomacy. It was maintained with the absolute terror of knowing that if you crossed the eagle, you would not just die, you would be erased. Your dignity would be violated, your children enslaved, and your memory turned into a joke in a Sunday procession. Yet history has a macabre sense of humor. Centuries later, the cycle closed. The barbarians returned. But this time they did not come in chains. Alaric the Goth did not walk behind a chariot. He entered through the Salarian gate with sword in hand. The Vandals did not parade to amuse the plebs. They sacked the city for 2 weeks. When Rome fell, there was no triumph, no organized parade, only fire, screams, and the final collapse of the machinery that had ground the world for 1,000 years. But for today, the city sleeps peacefully. The emperor retires to his chambers, convinced he is a god. The plebs dreams of the next party, and in the silence of the night, far from the cheers and glory, the ghosts of broken queens and kings watch from the shadows, waiting patiently for time, the only true conqueror, to reduce Rome also to dust and ruins, because in the end, no matter how much gold you wear on your neck or how many legions march at your back, the fate of all empires is the same: silence, darkness, and oblivion.